The music stopped. Every eye in that glittering ballroom turned to stare. A woman in a wheelchair, diamonds at her throat, tears on her cheeks, and a rough-handed carpenter holding her like she was made of starlight. Nobody expected what happened next. Nobody saw it coming. This is the story of Emma Collins, the CEO who lost everything, and the single father who taught her that some dances don't require standing at all. Before we begin, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. This story will take you on a journey you won't forget. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from, so I can see how far Emma's story travels across the world. I haven't danced in 847 days. Emma Collins sat alone in the corner of her sister's wedding reception, counting losses the way other people count blessings. 847 days since the accident. 847 days since she'd felt whole. 847 days since anyone had looked at her and seen a woman instead of a tragedy. The grand Belmont ballroom sparkled like someone had bottled starlight and poured it across marble floors. Crystal chandeliers cast fractured rainbows on silk gowns and tailored tuxedos. Laughter bounced off gold-trimmed walls. The jazz band played something smooth and romantic, while couples swayed together, fitting into each other's arms like they'd been designed that way. Emma adjusted the diamond necklace at her throat. Real diamonds, because everything about her appearance had to be flawless now. Perfect makeup, perfect dress, perfect smile plastered across her face like armor. If she looked successful enough, maybe people wouldn't notice the wheelchair. Maybe they'd forget she was broken. Fat chance. Emma, sweetheart. Her Aunt Margaret materialized out of the crowd, bending down with that head tilt everyone used now. That universal symbol of pity. You look absolutely radiant. Such a beautiful dress. Valentino. Yes. And you came all by yourself. No date. The question landed like a knife between her ribs, sharp and precise. I'm fine alone, Aunt Margaret. Of course you are, dear. So brave. Margaret patted her shoulder. Actually patted her like she was a golden retriever, and drifted away toward the open bar, probably to tell someone else how tragic the whole situation was. Emma's fingers tightened on her wheelchair's armrest. Brave. That word haunted her like a ghost. Everyone called her brave. Magazine covers called her brave, the CEO who rolled forward, and Unstoppable Emma Collins's journey. Investors called her brave when they wrote checks loving the optics of backing a disabled woman in tech. Nobody asked if she was lonely. Nobody asked if she cried herself to sleep most nights. Nobody asked if she'd trade every dollar, every achievement, every magazine cover just to walk across a room one more time. Her phone buzzed. Work email. Always work. Collins Tech Solutions had become her entire existence after the accident. $40 million company built on 18-hour days and pure spite. When your fiancé leaves you in a hospital bed, when your body betrays you, when your whole life implodes, you either crumble or you build something so big it can't be ignored. Emma had chosen to build, but tonight, watching her baby sister Rebecca dance with her new husband, watching them spin in clouds of white lace and pure joy, Emma felt the foundation cracking. She'd been Rebecca's maid of honor. Rebecca had cried when she asked mascara running down her face. Are you absolutely sure, Em? I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. I don't want people staring or... I'll be fine, Emma had interrupted, because what else could she say? Don't get married because watching you walk down an aisle I'll never walk might destroy what's left of me. The truth was, Rebecca's wedding had been circled on Emma's calendar for months. Not with excitement, with dread. A giant red X marking the day she'd have to sit in public and watch everyone else live the life that had been stolen from her. Pathetic, Emma muttered under her breath, taking a long sip of champagne. When had she become this person? The bitter woman in the corner, poisoned by her own misery. She knew exactly when. December 15th, 2 years ago. Black ice on the highway, her Tesla spinning like a carnival ride. The guardrail that didn't hold. The sound of her spine breaking a wet crack she still heard in nightmares. And then Marcus. God, Marcus. Her fiancé. The man who'd proposed on a Santorini beach at sunset, promising forever. He'd visited her twice in the hospital. Twice. The second visit, he'd stood at the foot of her bed, hands shoved in his pockets, eyes on the linoleum floor. Emma, I can't do this. Her pain medication had made everything fuzzy dreamlike. Can't do what? This. Us. I need someone who can keep up with my lifestyle. Someone who can travel, go hiking, attend events without complications. Complications. That's what she'd become, a complication. Get out, she'd whispered. And be reasonable. Get out. She'd screamed it, thrown a water pitcher that shattered against the wall. Nurses came running. Security escorted Marcus out. She'd never seen him again. He'd texted once. I hope you understand. This isn't personal. Not personal. Abandoning your fiancée in her darkest hour wasn't personal. Emma drained her champagne glass, flagging down a passing waiter for another. The alcohol dulled the edges, but couldn't touch the core of her loneliness. Across the ballroom, she spotted her ex-colleague Jennifer holding court near the dessert table. Jennifer from Collins Tech's early days before Emma had bought her out. Jennifer, who'd fought every decision, questioned every choice, and finally sold her shares with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Their gazes met across the crowd. Jennifer started walking over. No, not tonight. Emma didn't have the energy for fake pleasantries with someone who'd tried to undermine her for 3 years straight. Emma Collins. I almost didn't recognize you down there. Jennifer's smile was all teeth, no warmth. She wore a red dress that probably cost a mortgage payment, her blonde hair swept into an elegant updo. How have you been? Busy. The company's doing well. So I've read. 40 million valuation, impressive. Though I have to wonder. Jennifer leaned in, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Do you ever miss the old days? When you could actually walk through your own office? Must be hard being wheeled around like what, Jennifer? Emma's voice went cold, sharp as broken glass. Say it. Jennifer straightened, feigning innocence. I just meant it must be challenging, that's all. No offense intended. Of course not. Well, I should circulate. Lovely seeing you, Emma. Truly. Jennifer walked away, hips swaying, leaving Emma trembling with rage and shame, and 1,000 other emotions she couldn't name. Must be hard being wheeled around like a piece of furniture. Like cargo. Like something less than human. Emma's vision blurred. She needed air. Needed escape. Needed, excuse me, is anyone sitting here? A small voice cut through her spiral. Emma looked up to find a young boy standing beside her table, maybe 7 years old. Dark hair sticking up in the back, chocolate brown eyes wide with curiosity. He wore a suit jacket 2 sizes too big, sleeves rolled up at the cuffs. Children usually avoided her. Parents pulled them away with nervous smiles, as if disability were contagious. But this boy just stood there waiting for her answer. No, Emma managed. It's empty. The boy climbed into the chair leg, swinging. I'm Ethan. My uncle is getting married. Well, sort of uncle. He's my dad's best friend, but I call him Uncle Mike because it's easier than saying dad's best friend Mike every time. Do you know Uncle Mike? Despite everything, Emma felt her lips twitch. I'm afraid not. I'm the bride's sister. Oh, you're related to the really pretty lady in the giant dress. That's my sister, Rebecca. She's nice. She gave me extra cake even though my dad said I already had enough sugar. Ethan leaned closer, lowering his voice. But she offered, so technically I didn't break any rules. Technically. Emma found herself almost smiling. That's some impressive logic. Thanks. My dad says I could argue with a brick wall and win. Ethan tilted his head, studying her with unnerving directness. Why are you sitting here all alone? Are you hiding? The question hit like a punch to the sternum. This child, this complete stranger, had seen through her expensive dress and perfect makeup in 5 seconds flat. I suppose I am, Emma admitted quietly. From what? From everything. From the life I lost. From the person I used to be. From every single person in this room who looks at me and sees a tragedy instead of a woman. From boring conversations, Emma said instead. Ethan nodded seriously. My dad hides from those too. He says people talk too much about nothing important. I talk a lot though. Dad says I inherited my mom's gift for conversation. She's dead. He said it so matter-of-factly that Emma's breath caught. I'm so sorry, Ethan. It's okay. It happened 2 years ago. Cancer. It was really bad at the end, but Dad says she's not hurting anymore, so that's good. Ethan swung his legs, examining her wheelchair with open fascination. Why does your chair have wheels? That's actually really cool. Can you pop wheelies? Before Emma could answer, a man's voice cut in low, embarrassed with a hint of exhaustion. Ethan, buddy, you can't just interrogate people. The man appeared, and Emma's breath caught for an entirely different reason. He was tall, mid-30s maybe, with dark hair going silver at the temples. His face was carved with the kind of lines that came from real work, sun exposure, physical labor, genuine living. He wore a suit that fit decently but looked uncomfortable on his frame, like he belonged in jeans and work boots covered in sawdust. His hands were scarred, calloused, the hands of someone who built things. But his eyes, when they met Emma's, held something she hadn't seen directed at her in 847 days. Not pity, not discomfort, just recognition, human to human. I'm so sorry, the man said, running a hand through his hair. My son has a special talent for finding people and asking them extremely personal questions. I'm working on it. I wasn't being personal, Ethan protested. I was being friendly. There's a difference. It's fine, Emma said quickly. Really, he's been the most honest person I've talked to all night. Relief washed across the man's face. He pulled out a chair, moving with easy confidence. I'm Daniel Harris, professional wrangler of curious 7-year-olds. Emma Collins, professional tech CEO and apparent hiding spot for said 7-year-olds. Daniel's eyebrows rose. The Emma Collins Mike mentioned his wife's sister runs some big software company. Collins Tech Solutions, and it's not that big. $40 million valuation isn't big. Daniel's lips quirked. You should see my definition of big. I got excited when I landed a contract for 3 custom cabinets last month. You're a carpenter. And general contractor. Furniture renovations, whatever needs building. He said it without apology, without inflation. No pretense. Emma found it shockingly refreshing. Most men in her world would have puffed up their achievements, name-dropped clients, angled for investment opportunities. Daniel just sat down and looked at her like a person worth talking to. Dad builds really cool stuff, Ethan chimed in. He made my bed look like a pirate ship. And he's making a treehouse, but it's taking forever because he says good things take time and I need to learn patience. Patience is overrated, Emma said solemnly. Ethan's face lit up. That's what I said. Don't encourage him. Daniel groaned, but he was smiling. Really smiling. The kind of smile that reached his eyes and made him look younger, less burdened. I spent half my life trying to teach him patience, and you've undone months of work in 10 seconds. Consider it a public service. They talked and talked. The conversation flowed like good wine, easy, warm, surprisingly natural. Ethan told Emma about his school, his teacher Mrs. Rodriguez, who let them have class outside when it was nice, his best friend Tyler, who could burp the alphabet. Daniel talked about his current project restoring a Victorian-era home for a retired couple, the satisfaction of bringing old craftsmanship back to life. Emma found herself talking about things she never discussed, not the company achievements or magazine covers, but the actual work, the problem-solving, the thrill of coding something elegant. The team she'd built, quirky, brilliant people who argued about algorithms over pizza at midnight. She felt seen, actually seen, not as the disabled CEO or The Brave Woman in the Wheelchair, or Poor Emma Who Lost Everything. Just Emma. 38 years old, sharp-witted funny, when she let herself be passionate about her work. The band struck up a new song. Something slow and romantic. Couples flooded the dance floor, Rebecca and her husband swaying close. Aunt Margaret dancing with her long-suffering spouse, young people and old people, moving together in that timeless ritual of connection. Emma's smile faltered. She'd loved dancing. God, she'd loved it. Salsa on Friday nights, ballet classes on Sundays, spinning in Marcus's arms at charity galas, feeling beautiful and alive and complete. Now she watched from the sidelines, permanently benched. Ethan noticed. Of course he noticed. The kid missed nothing. "You look sad again," he said, head tilted. "Ethan." Daniel started. "Do you want to dance? My mom used to say dancing fixes everything. She danced even when she was sick. Said it reminded her she was still alive." Emma's throat closed. "I can't, sweetie, but thank you for thinking of me." "Why not?" "Because How did you explain physics and reality and the impossibility of dancing when your legs didn't work to a 7-year-old? My wheelchair doesn't really work on dance floors." "Sure it does. Wheels work everywhere." Ethan looked at his father. "Right, Dad. Wheels work on floors." Daniel's gaze locked with Emma's. Something passed between them. Understanding recognition, the silent communication of two people who'd survived different disasters and learned to carry impossible weight. And then Daniel Harris stood up, extended his hand, and said in a voice that trembled just slightly, "Would you do me the honor of this dance?" The ballroom didn't actually go silent. But in Emma's head, every sound disappeared except her own thundering heartbeat and the blood rushing through her ears. "I can't." Says who? Everyone. Physics, reality, common sense. "I'm not asking them. I'm asking you." Daniel's hand stayed extended, steady and sure despite the slight shake. Ethan watched with enormous, hopeful eyes. Emma stared at that hand, scarred from years of working with wood and tools and real materials, strong and capable, and offering something impossible. "People will stare," Emma whispered. "Let them. They'll pity us. They'll think I don't care what they think." Daniel's voice was firm but gentle. "Do you want to dance, Emma? That's the only question that matters." Did she want to dance? God, yes. More than anything. More than her next breath. "I haven't danced in 847 days, she admitted, voice breaking. "Then we're overdue." Daniel smiled, and something in Emma's chest cracked wide open. "I promise I won't drop you." Emma's hand trembled as she placed it in his. Daniel's grip was warm, calloused, real, anchoring. He moved around behind her wheelchair with surprising confidence. "May I?" he asked, hands hovering near the handles. Emma couldn't speak. She nodded. Daniel began to push, guiding her toward the dance floor. Emma's heart hammered so hard she thought it might crack a rib. Every eye in the ballroom turned to watch. Conversations stuttered to a halt. The whispers started immediately. She could see mouths moving, heads tilting together, fingers pointing. Poor thing. How sweet. How brave. How sad. Emma wanted to disappear, wanted to sink through the floor. This was a mistake. A horrible, humiliating Emma. Daniel's voice cut through her spiral. He came around to face her, kneeling slightly so they were eye level. "Look at me. Not them. Just me." She did. His eyes were steady, warm, without a trace of pity or discomfort. He smiled, soft and genuine, and took her hand again. "Ready?" "I don't know how to do this." "Neither do I. But we'll figure it out. That's what dancing is, figuring it out together." The music swelled. Daniel stood, keeping her hand in his, and began to move. Not pulling her wheelchair randomly, but finding the rhythm matching the beat, creating their own version of the dance. He stepped and turned, guiding her with surprising grace, and suddenly they were moving together. Not perfectly, not like the other couples, but beautifully, in their own way. Daniel's hand tightened on hers. He spun her wheelchair in a gentle circle, and Emma gasped, half laugh, half sob. The room blurred into light and color. The chandelier overhead scattered diamonds across her vision. Ethan appeared beside them, dancing on his own, grinning like this was the best game ever invented. "See?" he shouted over the music. "Dancing works, I told you." And Emma laughed, really laughed. The sound bubbled up from somewhere deep, somewhere she'd locked away 2 years ago. Daniel spun her again, and she threw her head back dizzy with it, dizzy with the music and the movement and the sheer impossible joy of this moment. The other dancers backed away, giving them space. The crowd around the dance floor grew. Camera phones appeared. Emma saw the flashes but didn't care. Let them record. Let them watch. Let them see that she was still here, still alive, still capable of this. Daniel moved with her, matching her rhythm, and for the first time in 847 days, the wheelchair wasn't a prison. It was an instrument, part of their dance. "You're beautiful," Daniel said quietly, voice nearly lost under the music. Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I'm broken." "No." His grip tightened. "You're here. You're moving. You're smiling. That's not broken. That's brave." The word didn't sting this time. Maybe because Daniel Harris, carpenter and widower and single father, knew what real bravery looked like. Not magazine covers or inspirational speeches. Just showing up, trying, choosing to move even when everything hurt. The song ended. The ballroom erupted in applause. Emma barely heard it. She was looking at Daniel, at Ethan, at these two strangers who'd handed her back a piece of herself she'd thought was gone forever. "Thank you," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Anytime," Daniel said. And the way he said it, steady, certain, like a promise, made Emma believe him. Rebecca materialized out of the crowd, mascara running, pulling Emma into a fierce hug. "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen at my own wedding. And I'm not even mad about being upstaged." Other people crowded, close family, friends, strangers wanting to touch this moment of unexpected magic. But Emma only saw Daniel and Ethan standing together at the edge of the crowd waiting for her. "Don't leave yet," Emma heard herself say. "Please." Daniel smiled. "We won't. Promise." The crowd eventually dispersed. The band started another song. Emma, Daniel, and Ethan found a table on the terrace away from the noise under a sky scattered with stars. Ethan fell asleep with his head on his father's shoulder, exhausted from excitement. Emma and Daniel talked. About everything. About nothing. About loss and survival and the strange paths that bring strangers together. "Sarah, my wife, used to say something," Daniel said softly, gazing at the stars. "She'd say, 'Keep dancing, even when life hurts, because that's when you need it most.' I didn't understand. Thought it was just pretty words. Then she died, and I stopped dancing. Stopped everything. Just went through motions for a year." "What changed?" Emma asked. "Ethan asked me one day why I didn't smile anymore, said he missed my smile, and I realized I'd forgotten how to be alive, forgotten how to feel anything except grief." Daniel looked at her. "You have a beautiful smile, Emma, the real one, not the armor you wear for everyone else." "How did you know?" "Because I recognize armor when I see it. Wore the same kind for a year. Smiled at people, said I was fine, went to work, raised my kid. But inside..." He shook his head. "Inside I was empty. Just going through motions." Emma's chest ached with recognition. "That's exactly what it feels like I'm performing life instead of living it." "Yeah." They sat in comfortable silence, two people who'd survived different storms and found themselves in the same lifeboat. "Can I see you again?" Daniel asked finally. "Not at a wedding. Just coffee, or dinner, or sitting in silence while Ethan talks our ears off about Pokemon." Emma's heart lurched. Every logical part of her brain screamed warnings. She didn't have time for this. Her life was too complicated. He was a widower with a child. She was a woman who couldn't walk. This was a disaster waiting to happen. But another part, quieter, deeper, the part she'd silenced for 847 days, whispered something different. What if this was the beginning of something real? What if she deserved this? Yes, Emma said. Yes, I'd really like that. Daniel's smile could have lit the entire city. They exchanged numbers as the night wound down. Emma watched him carry sleeping Ethan to his truck, the boy's arms wrapped trustingly around his father's neck. Something in her chest bloomed, painful and beautiful and terrifying. Rebecca found her as the last guests departed. "So," her sister said, sitting beside Emma's wheelchair, "that carpenter seems nice." "Don't start. I'm just saying." "Rebecca." "Fine." Rebecca's hand found hers. "But Emma, I haven't seen you look happy in 2 years. Tonight during that dance, you looked like yourself again. Like the sister I remember before everything went wrong." Emma's eyes burned. "I forgot I could still be her." "You never stopped being her, Em. You just forgot how to see it." They sat together in the empty ballroom, surrounded by the debris of celebration, wilting flowers, abandoned champagne glasses, chairs pushed askew. Sisters who'd grown up sharing everything, now separated by an accident that had changed everything. But tonight, something had shifted. Emma's phone buzzed as Rebecca helped her to the car. A text from an unknown number. "Ethan wants you to know you're officially the coolest person he's ever met, and the best dancer at the wedding. I happen to agree on both counts. Sleep well, Emma. Looking forward to that coffee. Daniel." Emma clutched the phone like a lifeline, tears streaming freely in the darkness. 847 days ago, she'd stopped dancing. 847 days ago, she'd stopped living. Tonight, she'd remembered how. And maybe, just maybe, she'd found someone to dance with. Emma stared at her phone for 20 minutes before texting back. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, deleting and rewriting the same message 6 times. "I'd like that too. When are you free? Too eager. Coffee sounds good. Let me know your schedule. Too formal. Thank you for last night. It meant more than you know. Too vulnerable." She finally settled on something simple. "Tomorrow afternoon. There's a cafe near my office." Daniel's response came within seconds. "Perfect. 2 p.m. Ethan has soccer practice, so it'll just be us. Unless you want him there. He's already planning your next dance routine." Emma laughed out loud in her empty bedroom, startling herself with the sound. When was the last time she'd laughed alone? When had anything felt this light? Just us. Sounds perfect. She set the phone down and stared at her ceiling, heart racing like she was 16 again. This was ridiculous. She was a CEO. She'd negotiated million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat. She'd rebuilt her entire life from scratch after an accident that should have destroyed her. And now she was nervous about coffee with a carpenter. No, not just a carpenter. Daniel. The man who'd looked at her wheelchair and seen a dance partner. The man whose son had seen her loneliness in 5 seconds and decided to fix it. Emma closed her eyes, remembering the feeling of Daniel's hand in hers, the way he'd moved with her instead of for her. The way he'd said, "You're beautiful," like he meant it. Like her broken body hadn't changed that fundamental truth. She hadn't felt beautiful in 847 days. 8:48 now. Her phone rang. "Rebecca, you're texting him, aren't you?" her sister said without preamble. "How did you?" "Because I know you, and because you had that look last night. The one you used to get before you went skydiving, or took up kickboxing, or did any of those crazy things that used to drive Mom insane." "I don't know what you're talking about." "You're smiling right now. I can hear it in your voice." Emma touched her face, surprised to find her sister was right. "We're meeting for coffee tomorrow." Rebecca squealed so loudly Emma had to pull the phone away from her ear. "Oh my God, what are you wearing? Where are you going? Did he—" "It's just coffee, Becca." "Nothing is ever just coffee. Especially not when the guy looks at you like you hung the moon. Did you see his face during that dance, Emma? He couldn't take his eyes off you. He was probably just being polite. Polite is helping someone reach something on a high shelf. What he did last night, that was something else entirely. Rebecca's voice softened. That was someone seeing you. Really seeing you. Not the accident, not the wheelchair. Just you. Emma's throat tightened. I'm terrified. Good. That means it matters. What if I'm not ready? What if I mess this up? What if it's wonderful? Rebecca interrupted. What if this is exactly what you need? What if you deserve to be happy? Emma, did you ever consider that possibility? The question hung in the air like smoke. Did she deserve to be happy? After everything. After becoming this bitter, isolated version of herself who'd pushed away everyone except her work. I don't know how to do this anymore, Emma whispered. Dating relationships, letting someone in? I don't remember how. Then learn again. You rebuilt an entire company from your hospital bed. You learned to live in a wheelchair to navigate a world that wasn't built for you. You can learn this too. After they hung up, Emma sat in the dark thinking about courage. Real courage. Not the magazine cover kind. Not the inspirational speech kind. The small, terrifying kind that meant showing up vulnerable and hoping you didn't get destroyed. The next afternoon, Emma changed clothes 4 times before settling on a simple blue sweater and jeans. Professional, but approachable. She applied makeup with shaking hands, then wiped it off and started over. Too much. She wasn't trying to impress him, except she absolutely was, and pretending otherwise felt dishonest. The cafe she'd chosen was accessible with a ramp and wide aisles and tables with space for wheelchairs. She'd been there dozens of times for meetings, always picking the corner table where she could work without people staring. Today she picked a table by the window. Daniel arrived exactly on time, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up, his hair slightly damp like he'd showered recently. He carried a worn leather jacket over one arm and smiled when he saw her, that same warm, genuine smile that had undone her at the wedding. Hey, he said, sliding into the seat across from her. Hey. They stared at each other for a beat too long, then both laughed nervously. This is weird, right? Emma said. This feels weird. So weird. At the wedding, I had liquid courage and a pushy 7-year-old. Now it's just me, and I'm realizing I have no idea what I'm doing. That makes 2 of us. The barista came over, and they ordered black coffee for him, a complicated oat milk latte for her. When the drinks arrived, Daniel wrapped both hands around his mug like he needed something to hold on to. So, he said, I should probably lead with this. I haven't been on a date in 4 years. This is a date. I mean, I hope so. Unless you just wanted to discuss home renovation tips, in which case I really misread the situation. Emma smiled despite her nerves. It's a date. Good. Okay. Then yes, 4 years since my last date, which was with my wife, which doesn't really count as dating since we were already married. So technically, I haven't been on a first date since 2008. I was 24. MySpace was still a thing. I haven't dated since my accident. Before that, I was engaged. Ethan mentioned something about a fiancé who was stupid and mean. His words. Emma's chest warmed at the thought of Ethan defending her. He left me, in the hospital, said he needed someone who could keep up with his lifestyle. Daniel's jaw tightened. What an ass. That's generous. I've called him much worse. Did you love him? The question was direct, unflinching. Emma appreciated that he didn't dance around it. I thought I did. Now I think I loved who I was when I was with him. Successful, mobile, normal. He was part of that package. When the package broke, so did we. His loss, Daniel said simply. You don't know that. You barely know me. I know you made my son laugh until he couldn't breathe. I know you talked to him like a real person, not a cute accessory. I know you were sitting alone at that wedding, looking like your heart was breaking, and you still had enough grace to be kind to a kid who wouldn't leave you alone." Emma's eyes stung. "He reminds me of why I used to like people." "He has that effect. Sarah used to say he could make friends with a rock if you gave him 5 minutes. Tell me about her." "Sarah." Daniel's expression shifted, not closing down, but softening into something bittersweet. "She was a kindergarten teacher. Loved kids, loved chaos, loved life so much it was almost annoying. I'm serious. She'd wake up singing, actually singing. I'm not a morning person, and she'd be there at 6 a.m. belting out Disney songs while making pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse." Emma laughed. "She sounds wonderful." She was, and she was stubborn as hell. When she got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, the doctors gave her 6 months. She made it 2 years through sheer willpower and spite. Lived every single day like it mattered. Made me promise I'd do the same after she was gone. "Have you—" Daniel was quiet for a moment, staring into his coffee. "No, not really. I went through the motions. Raised Ethan, worked, paid bills. But living, actually living. That stopped when she died. Until last night." His eyes met hers. "Yeah, until last night." The weight of what they weren't saying hung between them, two broken people, two different kinds of loss, finding each other in the wreckage. "This is going to sound crazy," Emma said slowly, "but I feel like I've known you longer than one night." "Not crazy, I feel it too." "Why do you think that is?" Daniel considered the question seriously. "Maybe because we're both tired of pretending. Everyone else wants us to be inspiration porn. The brave widower raising his son alone. The courageous disabled CEO conquering the business world. But with each other, we can just be tired and scared and human." Emma's breath caught. He'd put words to something she hadn't been able to articulate for 2 years. "I'm so tired of being brave," she whispered. "Me too." They talked for 3 hours. The cafe filled and emptied around them, other customers coming and going, but Emma barely noticed. They talked about everything: Daniel's work restoring old homes, Emma's company, and the team she'd built, their childhoods, their fears, the small moments of beauty they'd found in their separate griefs. "Ethan's been asking about you non-stop," Daniel said, grinning. "Wants to know when he can see you again. Suggested we invite you to his soccer game this Saturday." Emma's heart skipped. He did. No pressure, but if you're free, we'd both love to have you there. Fair warning, his team is terrible. Like historically bad. They haven't won a game all season." "Then they're overdue." "Is that a yes?" Emma thought about her usual Saturdays working from home, ordering takeout, convincing herself she was content with solitude. Then she thought about Ethan's gap-toothed grin and Daniel's steady warmth. "Yes, I'd love to come." Daniel's smile could have powered the entire city. They exchanged more text over the following days. Nothing deep, just small moments. Daniel sent her a picture of Ethan covered in paint after an art project gone wrong. Emma sent him a screenshot of a ridiculous investor email. He told her about the cabinet he was building from reclaimed barnwood. She told him about her lead developer who'd just quit to become a professional gamer. It felt easy, natural, like breathing. Saturday arrived cold and crisp, the kind of autumn day that smelled like fallen leaves and possibility. Emma wore jeans and a warm jacket, feeling oddly nervous as she wheeled herself across the bumpy grass of the soccer field. Parents lined the sidelines in folding chairs, thermoses of coffee in hand, cheering for children who mostly just chased the ball in chaotic clusters. Ethan spotted her immediately. "Emma!" He broke away from his team's huddle and sprinted over, throwing himself at her wheelchair in a hug that nearly knocked her sideways. "You came! You actually came! Dad said you would, but I thought maybe you were too busy being a CEO." "I wouldn't miss it," Emma said, laughing, as she hugged him back. Daniel jogged over wearing jeans and a faded university sweatshirt, looking unfairly attractive, with windblown hair and red cheeks. Sorry about that. He's been vibrating with excitement since yesterday. I can see that. We're gonna win today, Ethan announced confidently. I can feel it. We're gonna destroy the Blue Sharks. The Blue Sharks are 8-year-olds, buddy. Let's maybe not use the word destroy. Okay. We're gonna really nicely beat them in a game of friendly competition. Daniel rolled his eyes, but he was smiling. Ethan ran back to his team, already shouting strategy that made absolutely no sense. Daniel settled into a folding chair beside Emma's wheelchair, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Thanks for coming, he said quietly. Thanks for inviting me. The game started. Ethan's team was, as promised, spectacularly bad. They ran in wrong directions, kicked the ball toward their own goal twice, and spent more time arguing about who got to be the goalie than actually playing. But they were having fun, faces bright with effort and joy, and that seemed to matter more than winning. That's what Sarah loved, Daniel said, watching Ethan chase the ball with wild abandon. The effort, the trying. She used to say outcomes are overrated. It's the showing up part that counts. Smart woman. The smartest. When she got really sick toward the end, she couldn't leave the house much. So she'd sit in our backyard and make me bring her random things to look at. Flowers, interesting rocks, pictures Ethan drew. She'd study them like they were precious artifacts. Said she was practicing gratitude. Was it hard watching her do that? Yes and no. Hard because I knew she was preparing to leave. But also beautiful because she taught me how to see things differently. How to find joy in small moments instead of waiting for big ones. Daniel glanced at Emma. Kind of like what you did Thursday night. Dancing even though it was hard. Showing up even though people stared. That was different. How? Emma struggled to articulate it. Your wife was sick. She didn't have a choice. I let fear win for 2 years. I stopped trying. You rebuilt an entire company. That's different. Work is safe. Work doesn't require vulnerability. And what we're doing now. Emma met his eyes. Terrifying. Good terrifying or bad terrifying? I'm not sure yet. On the field, Ethan suddenly broke free with the ball, sprinting toward the goal with determination. The other team chased him, but he was faster, more focused. He pulled his leg back and kicked with everything he had. The ball sailed past the goalkeeper and into the net. The sideline erupted in cheers. Ethan stood frozen for a second, then threw his arms up and screamed with pure joy. His teammates mobbed him, jumping and shouting. Daniel leaped to his feet, whistling through his fingers. That's my boy. Ethan ran to the sideline, face split with the biggest smile Emma had ever seen. Did you see that? Did you see I scored? I saw, Emma called back. That was amazing. Best goal ever, Daniel said, pulling Ethan into a bear hug. Absolutely perfect. The game continued. Ethan's team still lost 7-1, but nobody cared. That one goal had been enough. Afterwards, parents packed up chairs and herded sticky children toward parking lots. Ethan bounced between Emma and Daniel, recounting the goal in increasingly dramatic detail. And then I saw the opening, he said, gesturing wildly. And I thought, what would Emma do? And I just went for it. Didn't think, just did it. What would Emma do? Emma repeated, touched. Yeah, because you're brave. You danced even though you were scared. So I figured I could score even though I've never scored before. Daniel's hand found Emma's shoulder, squeezing gently. The touch lasted only a second, but it burned through her jacket, warm and solid and real. You hungry? Daniel asked. There's a diner near here that makes incredible milkshakes, our post-game tradition. I don't want to intrude on your tradition. You're not intruding. We're inviting. There's a difference. Ethan grabbed Emma's hand. Please come. Please, please, please. They have chocolate peanut butter shakes and curly fries. And Dad always lets me get dessert because he says soccer is hard work. How could she say no to that face? The diner was old-school Americana, red vinyl booths, checkerboard floors, a jukebox in the corner playing classic rock. The hostess knew Daniel and Ethan by name, seating them in a corner booth with practiced ease. Emma's wheelchair fit perfectly at the end of the table. They ordered food burgers and fries for Daniel and Ethan, a grilled cheese for Emma, and the promised milkshakes arrived in tall glasses with whipped cream and cherries. Ethan dove into his like he hadn't eaten in weeks, getting chocolate all over his face. "So, Emma," Ethan said through a mouthful of shake, "do you have any kids?" "Ethan Manners," Daniel said automatically. "It's okay. No, I don't have any kids." "Do you want kids?" I don't know. I haven't thought about it much." "You should. You'd be a good mom. You're nice and you're smart and you can do cool wheelchair tricks." "I can't actually do wheelchair tricks." "Not yet, but I could teach you." Emma laughed, warmth spreading through her chest. This child had decided she was part of his life, and that was that. No hesitation, no judgment, just pure acceptance. Their food arrived, and they ate with easy conversation flowing between bites. Ethan told jokes he'd learned at school, terrible jokes that made no sense, but were hilarious because of his delivery. Daniel told stories about construction disasters homes, where every wall he opened revealed new problems. Emma found herself sharing things she never talked about: her childhood, her parents who'd died years ago, the loneliness of being at the top. "Don't you have friends?" Ethan asked innocently. "Like people to hang out with?" The question stung because the answer was complicated. "I have work colleagues," Emma said carefully, "but real friends, not many. I sort of pushed people away after my accident." "Why?" "Because it hurt less than watching them not know what to say to me." Ethan considered this seriously. "That sounds lonely." "It was. It is." "Well, now you have us," Ethan declared. "Me and Dad. We're your friends." "Right, Dad." Daniel's eyes met Emma's across the table, warm and steady. "Right. If Emma wants us." "I do," Emma said quietly. "I really do." Something shifted in that moment. An understanding passing between them, unspoken, but clear. This wasn't just coffee or soccer games or casual friendship. This was the beginning of something that mattered. After dinner, Daniel walked Emma to her car while Ethan ran ahead, burning off his final reserves of energy. The parking lot was nearly empty, streetlights casting orange pools on asphalt. "Thank you for today," Daniel said. "Ethan hasn't been this happy in, I can't remember how long. He's an amazing kid. He likes you, a lot. Hasn't stopped talking about you since the wedding." The feeling's mutual. They stood in awkward silence for a beat, both clearly wanting to say something but not knowing how. Finally, Daniel laughed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm going to be honest because Sarah always said honesty saves time. I like you, Emma, more than I've liked anyone in a really long time, and that scares the hell out of me." Emma's heart hammered. "Why does it scare you?" "Because what if I mess this up? What if I'm not ready? What if it's wonderful?" Emma interrupted, echoing Rebecca's words. "What if we both deserve this?" Daniel stepped closer, not touching, but near enough that Emma could feel his warmth. "Can I see you again soon?" "Yes. Tomorrow." Emma laughed. "Don't you have work?" "I'll take a day off. Come to my workshop. I'll show you what I'm building. Ethan will be at school, so it'll just be us. We can actually talk without someone asking if you can pop wheelies." "I'd like that." Daniel smiled, and Emma felt something inside her chest unfurl. Something that had been closed tight for 848 days. Hope. "Good night, Emma." "Good night, Daniel." She watched him walk back to Ethan, watched them get into his truck, watched the taillights disappear into the night. Then she sat in her car for a long moment, hands shaking, heart racing, feeling more alive than she had in years. Her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel Ethan says you're magic. I'm starting to think he's right. Emma typed back with trembling fingers. Tell him he's pretty magic too. Both of you are. She drove home through quiet streets, windows down despite the cold, letting the wind whip through her hair. The city lights blurred past, and for the first time since the accident, Emma wasn't counting days of loss. She was counting the beginning of something new. Daniel's workshop smelled like sawdust and varnish wood shavings scattered across concrete floors like confetti. Emma wheeled herself through the wide doorway he'd clearly opened just for her, taking in the organized chaos of his workspace. Half-finished furniture pieces lined the walls, tools hung on pegboards with military precision, and sunlight streamed through high windows, catching dust motes in golden shafts. It's not much, Daniel said, wiping his hands on his jeans. He wore a faded t-shirt and work boots, his hair pushed back with what looked like carpenter's pencil. But it's mine. It's incredible, Emma breathed, rolling closer to examine a dining table in progress. The wood grain was beautiful, each piece fitted together with obvious care. You made this. Still working on it. Custom order for a couple celebrating their 50th anniversary. They wanted something that would last another 50 years. He ran his hand along the smooth surface with obvious pride. That's what I love about this work. I'm building things that outlive me. Legacy you can touch. Emma understood that more than he knew. That's what I try to do with code. Build systems that solve problems long after I'm gone. Except yours live in computers and mine live in homes. Both matter. Daniel smiled, pulling over a stool to sit beside her. Want to help me sand something? Fair warning, you'll get dusty. I'm a CEO. I don't get dusty. Everyone should get dusty sometimes. Reminds you, you're real. He handed her sandpaper and guided her hands to a chair leg that needed smoothing. They worked in comfortable silence, the rasp of paper against wood, creating a rhythm between them. Emma found the repetitive motion soothing, meditative. Her world was usually screens and spreadsheets and conference calls. This was different, tangible, real. Sarah used to come here when I first started the business, Daniel said after a while. She'd sit exactly where you are and grade papers while I worked. Said she liked the sounds, made her feel less alone. Do you miss her? Every single day. But differently now. At first it was this crushing weight, like I couldn't breathe without her. Now it's more like... He paused, searching for words. Like she's part of the furniture, built into the foundation of who I am. Does that make sense? It does. My parents died in a car accident when I was 25, together coming home from dinner. For years I couldn't drive past the intersection where it happened. Now I drive past it and think about the good things. The Sunday dinners, the terrible jokes my dad told, the way my mom laughed at all of them, even though they weren't funny. They sound wonderful. They were. They would have liked you. Daniel's hand stilled on the wood. Yeah. My dad was a contractor, worked with his hands his whole life, said you could tell everything about a person by how they treated their tools. Emma gestured to his immaculate workspace. He would have approved of this. What about your mom? She was a teacher, elementary school, would have loved Ethan. They would have loved you too. The words hung between them, weighted with meaning. Emma's chest tightened. When had someone last said something like that to her? When had she last felt worthy of being loved? Can I ask you something? Daniel said quietly. And you can tell me if I'm overstepping. Okay? What happened with your ex? After the accident, I mean. You said he left, but what did he actually say? Emma's hands stopped moving. She'd told this story exactly twice, once to Rebecca, once to her therapist. Both times she'd cried until she couldn't breathe. He came to visit me in the hospital. Second time, 3 days after my surgery. I was on so many pain meds I could barely think straight. He stood at the foot of my bed and said, I can't do this, Emma. This isn't what I signed up for. Daniel's jaw clenched, but he didn't interrupt. I asked him what he meant. He said he needed a partner who could keep up with his lifestyle, someone who could travel, go hiking, attend events without complications. He actually used that word, complications, like I was a problem to be solved instead of a person he'd promised to marry. What did you say? I threw a water pitcher at his head, missed obviously because I was drugged and had no aim. But the nurses had to escort him out while I screamed that I hoped he died alone and miserable. Emma laughed bitterly. Not my finest moment. Sounds like a completely appropriate response to me. The worst part wasn't him leaving, it was realizing he was probably right. Emma. No, listen, he was right. I am complicated now. I do require accommodations. I can't just spontaneously go hiking or travel without planning every detail. I'm not the woman he fell in love with anymore. Daniel set down his sandpaper and turned to face her fully. You want to know what I think? I'm not sure. I think he was a coward who couldn't handle real life when it got hard. I think he loved an idea of you, not the actual you. And I think you're better off without someone that shallow. How do you know? Because the real you, the one sitting in my workshop getting sawdust in your hair, is pretty damn amazing. Wheelchair and all. Emma's eyes burned. You don't know me well enough to say that. Then let me. Know you, I mean. Really know you. Not the magazine cover CEO or the inspiration story, just Emma. That Emma is kind of a mess. Good. So am I. They stared at each other, something electric crackling in the space between them. Emma wanted to kiss him. God, she wanted to kiss him so badly her entire body ached with it. But fear held her frozen. What if she was bad at it after 2 years? What if he was just being nice? What if this was all some elaborate pity project? Daniel stood slowly moving around to face her wheelchair. He knelt down eye level with her, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his brown eyes. I'm going to say something, and I need you to really hear me, okay? Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. I'm not here because I feel sorry for you. I'm not here because you're some charity case or because Ethan guilted me into it. I'm here because when I look at you, I see someone who survived something that should have broken her and came out stronger. I see someone who makes my kid laugh, who challenges me, who's smart and funny and real. I see someone I want to know better, someone I want to... His phone rang, shattering the moment. Daniel closed his eyes, clearly frustrated, but checked the screen. His expression changed immediately. It's Ethan's school. I have to take this. Of course. He stepped away, answering with concern in his voice. Emma couldn't hear the conversation, but she watched his shoulders tense, watched him run a hand through his hair, the way he did when he was stressed. I'll be right there, he said, finally hanging up. He turned to Emma with apology written all over his face. Ethan fell during recess. They think his arm might be broken. I have to go pick him up, take him to the ER. Go, obviously. Is he okay? They said he's scared but stable. I'm so sorry, Emma. Today was supposed to be... Daniel, your son is hurt. Go. We can do this another time. He hesitated, clearly torn. Come with me. What? Come with me. To the hospital. Unless you have work. Or, you want me there? Ethan will want you there. And honestly, so do I. Emma's heart hammered. This was real. This was letting her into his actual life, not just the easy parts, the messy, scary, complicated parts. Okay. Yes. Let's go. They took Daniel's truck, Emma transferring into the passenger seat, while Daniel folded her wheelchair into the truck bed with practiced efficiency. He drove fast, but controlled, hands tight on the steering wheel, jaw clenched with worry. He's going to be okay, Emma said quietly. You don't know that. Kids break bones all the time. It's scary, but it's fixable. Sarah used to say that. Every time Ethan got hurt, she'd say, it's scary, but it's fixable, like it was a mantra. Daniel's voice cracked slightly. God, I wish she was here. She was so much better at this stuff than me. You're doing great. I'm terrified every single day that I'm screwing him up, that I'm not enough, that he needs a mom, and all he's got is me fumbling through it. Emma reached over and squeezed his hand. He's got you. That's more than enough. Trust me, I've seen you two together. You're an incredible father. Daniel's fingers tightened around hers, holding on like she was an anchor in a storm. The elementary school was small brick and playground equipment visible from the parking lot. The principal met them at the front entrance, a kind-faced woman in her 50s who clearly knew Daniel well. "He's in the nurse's office," she said, leading them down a hallway covered in children's artwork. "Very brave, but definitely in pain. We didn't want to move him too much until you got here." Ethan sat on a paper-covered examination table, cradling his left arm against his chest. His face was tear-streaked, but he wasn't crying anymore. When he saw Daniel and Emma, his bottom lip trembled. "Dad, it hurts really bad." "I know, buddy, I know." Daniel was at his side, instantly examining the arm with gentle hands. It was already swelling, bruising spreading across pale skin. "We're going to get you fixed up, okay?" Emma came too. "Look." Ethan's eyes found Emma, and something in his expression shifted. "You came?" "Of course I came. Heard you had quite the adventure during recess." "I fell off the monkey bars. Tyler said I couldn't make it all the way across. I almost did. Almost." "That's my boy. Almost counts for something." The nurse handed Daniel paperwork while Emma wheeled herself closer to Ethan. The boy reached out with his good hand, and Emma took it, surprised by how tightly he gripped her fingers. "Are you coming to the hospital?" he asked in a small voice. "If you want me there." "I want you there. Hospitals are scary." "They are. But your dad will be with you the whole time. And if you want, I can be there too." "Promise. I promise." The emergency room was exactly as Emma remembered from 2 years ago: fluorescent lights, antiseptic smell, the ambient noise of beeping machines, and worried voices. She'd spent 6 weeks in a place like this, learning to accept her new reality, one agonizing day at a time. Walking back through those automatic doors felt like stepping into a nightmare. Daniel must have noticed her hands shaking because he touched her shoulder gently. "You okay?" "Yeah, just memories." "We can wait outside if you need to." "No, I'm good. Ethan needs us." They checked in at the desk, settled into uncomfortable plastic chairs in the waiting area. Ethan leaned against Daniel's side, whimpering occasionally when his arm shifted. Emma held his good hand, telling him stories about her office, her team, the ridiculous things that happened in tech companies. "Like what?" Ethan asked clearly, trying to distract himself from the pain. "Well, last month our lead developer brought his pet lizard to work. Said it helped him code better. The lizard escaped, and we spent 3 hours searching the building. Found him in the server room, sitting on top of our most expensive equipment, like he owned the place." Ethan giggled despite his tears. "What kind of lizard?" "Bearded dragon. His name is Algorithm." "That's a weird name." "That's what I said. But apparently, it's a programming joke." "Tell me another story." So Emma did. She told him about office pranks and coffee machine disasters and the time their entire system crashed right before a major presentation. Daniel listened, too grateful for anything that kept his son calm. "Ethan Harris." A nurse called from the doorway. They moved to an examination room, where a doctor with kind eyes assessed Ethan's arm, asking questions and gently probing the injury. X-rays confirmed what everyone suspected: a clean break of the radius, painful but straightforward. "He'll need a cast for 6 to 8 weeks, the doctor explained. "We'll set it now, give him something for the pain. He'll be uncomfortable for a few days, but kids heal fast." "Can I pick the color?" Ethan asked, already perking up at the mention of a cast. "Absolutely. What color do you want?" Ethan looked at Emma. "What's your favorite color?" "Blue." "Like the ocean?" "Then blue. So when I look at it, I think of Emma." Something in Emma's chest cracked wide open. This child, in pain and scared, wanted his cast to remind him of her. The doctor and nurses worked efficiently setting the bone, while Ethan gripped Emma's hand hard enough to leave marks. Daniel stood on his other side, murmuring encouragement, wiping away tears. When the cast was finally on bright blue and already covered in the staff's signatures, Ethan looked exhausted but proud. "I'm officially cooler than Tyler now," he announced. "He's never broken anything." "Let's not make this a competition," Daniel said, but he was smiling with relief. They discharged Ethan with pain medication and instructions to follow up with an orthopedist. The ride home was quiet. Ethan dozing in the back seat, pain meds making him drowsy. Daniel drove slower this time, one hand on the wheel, the other occasionally reaching back to check on his son. "Thank you," he said quietly to Emma, "for being there, for keeping him calm, for everything." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You didn't have to come. This isn't your responsibility, but you showed up anyway." "That's what people do when they care about someone." Daniel glanced at her, something vulnerable in his expression. "Do you care?" Emma's heart hammered. They'd known each other less than 2 weeks. This was too fast, too intense, too much. But sitting in this truck with this man and his injured child, Emma couldn't deny what she felt. "Yes, I care, more than I probably should." "There's no should in this. Either you feel it or you don't." "I feel it. That's what scares me." Daniel pulled into his driveway, a small craftsman-style house with a front porch and a yard that needed mowing. He killed the engine and turned to face her fully. "I'm scared too, Emma. Terrified, actually. I haven't let anyone close since Sarah died. Haven't wanted to. But then you showed up at that wedding in your fancy dress looking like you were holding the weight of the world on your shoulders. And something in me just recognized you." "Recognized what?" "Someone else who was drowning but too stubborn to ask for help." Emma laughed shakily. "That's pretty accurate." "So what do we do about it?" "I don't know. I haven't figured that part out yet." Daniel reached across the console and took her hand. "How about we figure it out together? No pressure, no expectations. Just see what happens." Before Emma could answer, Ethan stirred in the back seat. "Dad, are we home?" "Yeah, buddy. Let's get you inside." Daniel carried Ethan into the house and Emma followed, maneuvering her wheelchair up the ramp he'd clearly built himself. The interior was cozy, lived in with Ethan's drawings on the fridge and toys scattered across the living room floor. Photos of Sarah covered the mantel, a beautiful woman with dark hair and bright eyes smiling in every picture. Emma felt like an intruder in this shrine to Daniel's past. But then Ethan called from the couch where Daniel had settled him. "Emma, will you stay for dinner? Please, Dad makes really good spaghetti, and you can sign my cast first." Daniel emerged from the kitchen with a Sharpie. "No pressure, but the offer stands." Emma looked at this house, this family, this unexpected place she'd somehow found herself. Every logical part of her brain screamed to leave, to protect herself, to not get attached to something that could hurt her. But that other part, the part that had danced at a wedding, the part that had watched Ethan score a goal, the part that had held a 7-year-old's hand in an ER, that part didn't want to leave. "I'd love to stay," Emma said. She signed Ethan's cast, first writing carefully, "To the bravest kid I know, stay cool, Emma." Then she helped Daniel in the kitchen chopping vegetables while he boiled pasta, their shoulders brushing in the small space. They moved around each other with surprising ease, Daniel adjusting his movements to accommodate her wheelchair without making it obvious. They ate dinner at a table covered in homework and mail, Ethan talking non-stop, despite his exhaustion, the pain medication making him loopy and hilarious. Daniel kept looking at Emma like he couldn't quite believe she was there, and Emma kept thinking she was in someone else's life, someone else's beautiful, normal chaos. After dinner, Ethan crashed hard, falling asleep mid-sentence on the couch. Daniel carried him to bed while Emma waited in the living room, studying the photos of Sarah. She was beautiful, yes, but more than that, she looked happy. genuinely deeply happy in a way that radiated from every picture. "She would have liked you," Daniel said softly, startling Emma. He'd returned so quietly she hadn't heard him. "How do you know?" "Because she had good taste in people. And because you make me smile again. She'd appreciate that." "I don't want to replace her." "You're not. You couldn't. Sarah will always be part of this house, part of Ethan, part of me. But that doesn't mean there's no room for something new." Daniel sat beside her close but not touching. "She told me something near the end, made me promise." "What?" "She said, when you find someone who makes you remember how to live, don't you dare let her go because you're scared. Scared is for cowards, and I didn't marry a coward. She made me swear I'd let myself be happy again." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "She sounds incredible." She was, and she was right. I've been scared for 2 years. Scared of moving on, scared of being happy, scared of forgetting her. But meeting you made me realize I can honor her memory and still live, still feel things, still want things. "What do you want, Daniel?" He turned to look at her. Really look at her, and Emma felt stripped bare under his gaze. "I want to know what makes you laugh at 3 in the morning. I want to learn how you take your coffee, and what movies make you cry. I want Ethan to have someone besides me who he can count on. I want to stop feeling like I'm just surviving and start actually living again." He paused. "And I want to kiss you. I've wanted to kiss you since that dance at the wedding." Emma's breath caught. "Then why haven't you?" "Because I wanted to make sure you wanted it too. That this isn't just me projecting or moving too fast or—" Emma grabbed the front of his shirt and pulled him close, cutting off his words with her mouth. The kiss was awkward at first, tentative, two people who'd forgotten how to do this. But then Daniel's hand cupped her face, and Emma's fingers tangled in his hair. And suddenly, it wasn't awkward at all. It was perfect. They broke apart, breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. "So that's a yes," Daniel whispered, smiling. "That's a definitely yes." They kissed again, slower this time, learning the shape of each other. Emma felt something unlock inside her chest, something that had been closed tight for 848 days. She was done surviving. She was ready to live. Emma left Daniel's house at midnight, her lips still tingling, her heart doing acrobatics in her chest. She sat in her car for 10 minutes before starting the engine, just replaying the kiss over and over like a teenager. 48 hours ago, she'd been alone at a wedding, drowning in self-pity. Now she'd just kissed a man who looked at her like she hung the stars, and had a 7-year-old who wanted his cast to remind him of her. Her phone buzzed before she'd even pulled out of the driveway. "Daniel, drive safe. Text me when you're home, so I know you made it." Emma smiled so wide her face hurt. When was the last time someone had worried about her getting home safely? She texted back, "Will do. Thank you for today. All of it. Daniel, thank you. For being there. For Ethan. For me. For everything." Emma, get some sleep. You have an injured kid to take care of tomorrow. Daniel, already dreading the 3 a.m. Dad, my arm hurts, wake-up call. Worth it, though. Today was worth everything. Emma drove home through empty streets, windows down, cold air whipping through her hair. She felt alive in a way she hadn't in years. Not the magazine cover kind of alive, not the "look how brave I am" kind. Just genuinely, messily, wonderfully alive. Rebecca called at 7 the next morning, way too early for someone who didn't have a broken child to tend to. "Tell me everything," her sister demanded without preamble. "And I mean everything. You went to his workshop yesterday and then radio silence for 18 hours. What happened?" "Ethan broke his arm. We spent half the day in the ER." "Oh my God, is he okay?" "He's fine. Clean break, blue cast, already bragging about being cooler than his friends." "And you were there at the hospital?" "Daniel asked me to come." Rebecca squealed so loudly, Emma had to pull the phone away from her ear. "He brought you to the hospital." "Em, that's huge. That's not casual coffee territory. That's real life, real family stuff. I know. And what? Did anything happen? Did he kiss you? Please tell me he kissed you. Emma bit her lip, trying not to smile. Maybe. Maybe Emma Collins, you tell me right now, or I'm driving to your apartment and beating it out of you. Fine, yes. He kissed me. Or I kissed him. It was mutual and it was… Rebecca, it was perfect. Her sister made a sound somewhere between a sob and a laugh. I'm so happy for you I could cry. Actually, I am crying. Hang on. Emma heard her sister blow her nose, overwhelmed with affection for this woman who'd stuck by her through everything. Through the accident, through the hospital stays, through the dark months when Emma had pushed everyone away. Rebecca had refused to leave. I'm scared, Emma admitted quietly. This is happening so fast. What if I'm not ready? What if I screw it up? What if you don't? What if this is exactly what you need and you're just terrified because it's good and you've forgotten what good feels like? When did you get so wise? I married a therapist. It rubs off. They talked for another hour. Emma recounting every detail of the past few days. Rebecca listened, asked questions, didn't judge or try to slow Emma down or warn her about moving too fast. She just celebrated with the pure joy of someone who loved Emma and wanted her happy. After hanging up, Emma tried to work but couldn't focus. Her mind kept drifting to Daniel's workshop, to Ethan's broken arm, to the way Daniel had said, I want to know what makes you laugh at 3 a.m. She answered exactly 3 emails before giving up and staring at her phone like a lovesick teenager. It buzzed with a text from Daniel. Ethan wants to know if you're free this weekend. His exact words were, I want Emma to come over and watch movies because my arm hurts and she makes everything better. Emma's heart melted into a puddle. Emma. Tell him I'm free Saturday. What time, Daniel? Anytime. We're not going anywhere. Fair warning. He'll make you watch the same dinosaur movie 17 times and he gets extra cuddly when he's hurt. Emma. I can handle dinosaurs and cuddles. Daniel. What about his dad? Can you handle him too? Emma, I think I'm willing to try. Saturday arrived with rain hammering against windows and gray skies that matched Emma's mood. Not because she was sad, but because her body had decided to remind her it was broken. Her spine ached with the kind of deep grinding pain that no medication fully touched. The kind that made her want to stay in bed and cry. But she'd promised Ethan. She texted Daniel, running a little late. Bad pain day. Still coming though. His response was immediate. Take your time. No pressure. We can reschedule if you need to. Emma. No. I want to come. Just might need some patience with me today. Daniel. You'll have all the patience in the world. Drive carefully. Text when you're close, and I'll help you inside. Emma took extra pain medication dressed in soft clothes that wouldn't aggravate her skin and drove to Daniel's house going 5 miles under the speed limit because every bump felt like knives in her spine. By the time she pulled into his driveway, she was exhausted and close to tears. Daniel appeared before she'd even opened her door, umbrella in hand, concern written all over his face. Hey, he said softly. Rough morning. The worst. I'm sorry. I look like hell. You look beautiful. Come on, let's get you inside before you're soaked. He helped her transfer to her wheelchair with gentle efficiency, holding the umbrella over both of them while she maneuvered up the ramp. Inside the house was warm and smelled like cinnamon. Ethan was curled up on the couch in pajamas, his blue cast propped on pillows, watching a movie about talking dinosaurs. Emma. He sat up too fast and winced. Ow. Forgot about my arm. Careful, buddy, Daniel said. Remember what the doctor said about taking it easy. I am taking it easy. This is me being easy. Ethan looked at Emma with those enormous brown eyes. Are you okay? You look sad. Just hurting today. Sometimes my back gets really sore. Because of your accident. Yeah. That sucks. Does it hurt all the time? Emma appreciated his directness. Most adults tiptoed around her pain like it was contagious. Not all the time. But some days are harder than others. Today's a hard day. Ethan considered this seriously. My arm hurts too. Want to be hurt, buddies? We can watch movies and complain together. Despite the pain, Emma laughed. That sounds perfect. Daniel brought her tea and a heating pad without her asking, settling it behind her back with gentle hands. He'd made cinnamon rolls from scratch still warm, and the three of them ate breakfast for lunch while the dinosaur movie played. Ethan narrated every scene, even though they'd all seen it before, his enthusiasm undimmed by repetition. This is the best part, he announced for the third time. Watch. Emma watched, but mostly she watched Daniel watching his son. The pure love on his face, the way he laughed at Ethan's commentary, the unconscious way he reached out to adjust the boy's cast when it slipped. This was what family looked like. Not perfect, not polished, just real and present and full of tiny moments that mattered. Around noon, Ethan's pain medication made him drowsy. He fought sleep like it was a personal enemy, determined not to miss anything, but eventually his eyes closed mid-sentence. Daniel covered him with a blanket and turned the TV volume down. He's been asking about you nonstop, Daniel said quietly, settling on the floor beside Emma's wheelchair. Wanted to make sure I didn't mess things up with Emma because she's the best. He said that. Word for word. Apparently I have a history of being awkward around women I like. His assessment, not mine. Are you awkward around women you like? Terribly. Sarah used to tease me about it, said I turned into a stammering idiot whenever I was attracted to someone. Daniel smiled at the memory. She had to make the first move when we met. I was too busy being an awkward mess. I find that hard to believe. You seem pretty smooth to me. That's because you make me forget to be nervous. When I'm with you, I just feel like myself. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to rain drum against windows and Ethan's soft breathing. Emma's pain medication was kicking in, making her drowsy and loose-tongued. I have surgery scheduled, she said suddenly. In 6 weeks. Spinal procedure. There's a chance it could help with the pain, maybe even improve some mobility. Or it could make things worse. 50-50 odds. Daniel's hand found hers. That's terrifying. Yeah, I've been putting it off for a year. Too scared to hope, you know. But lately I've been thinking maybe it's worth the risk. What changed? Emma looked at sleeping Ethan, then at Daniel. I have reasons to hope now. Things worth fighting for. Daniel squeezed her hand, his eyes bright with emotion. Whatever happens, whatever you decide, we're here, both of us. You don't have to go through this alone. We barely know each other. So, some people can know each other for years and never really see each other. I see you, Emma, and what I see is someone worth sticking around for. Emma's eyes filled with tears. The pain medication was making her emotional, stripping away the careful control she usually maintained. I'm so tired of being alone. Then don't be. Be with us. Be with me. What if the surgery doesn't work? What if I get worse instead of better? Then we'll figure it out. Together. That's what people do when they care about each other. You keep saying that. When they care about each other. But Daniel, this is so fast. How do you know you care? How do you know this isn't just because I think about you constantly? Daniel interrupted, his voice rough with honesty. Because when something funny happens, you're the first person I want to tell. Because Ethan talks about you like you've always been part of our lives. Because when I kiss you, I feel like I'm finally breathing after holding my breath for 2 years. Emma couldn't speak. Her throat was too tight, her chest too full. I know it's fast, Daniel continued. I know we should probably take this slower, be more careful. But I spent 2 years being careful, Emma, being safe, playing it small. And then I met you and suddenly I remembered what it feels like to want something bigger than just getting through the day. What do you want? Daniel moved closer, kneeling in front of her wheelchair, taking both her hands in his. I want you in my life. In Ethan's life. I want Saturday mornings like this, and Wednesday night dinners, and someone to call when things go wrong. I want to be there for your surgery, holding your hand, driving you home after. I want all of it. The messy, complicated, beautiful, all of it. I'm scared. Me too. But I'm more scared of letting you go because I was too afraid to try. Emma leaned forward and kissed him, tasting salt from tears she didn't realize she'd cried. Daniel kissed her back with gentle intensity, one hand cupping her face, the other still holding hers like an anchor. Ew, Dad's kissing Emma. Ethan's sleepy voice announced from the couch. That's gross. They broke apart laughing. Ethan sat up, rubbing his eyes with his good hand, grinning despite his gross comment. Does this mean Emma's your girlfriend now? He asked Daniel. I don't know. Emma, am I allowed to be your boyfriend? Emma's heart hammered. This was real. This was happening. She could say no, protect herself, keep her walls up. Or she could take the terrifying leap and say yes. Yes, Emma whispered. Yes, you can be my boyfriend. Ethan cheered immediately, regretting it when his arm jostled. Daniel kissed Emma again, soft and quick, smiling against her lips. The rest of the day passed in a blur of movies and laughter and small touches. Daniel's hand on her shoulder. Ethan's head on her lap, the three of them fitting together like they'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. When Emma's phone rang with a work emergency around 4, she almost didn't answer. Take it, Daniel said. We're not going anywhere. It was her CTO panicking about a server crash that could cost them thousands in lost revenue. Emma talked him through the troubleshooting steps, her CEO brain clicking into gear, even while Ethan played with her free hand and Daniel brought her more tea. After she hung up, Daniel looked impressed. That was incredibly attractive watching you handle that. Me talking about server architecture. You talking about anything. You're brilliant, you know that. I'm okay at my job. You built a $40 million company from a hospital bed. That's more than okay. Emma felt herself blushing. You're pretty impressive yourself. Single dad business owner, amazing carpenter. Plus you make really good cinnamon rolls. The cinnamon rolls are my secret weapon. How do you think I got Sarah to marry me? They could talk about Sarah now without the conversation going dark. Daniel spoke about his late wife with love, but not crushing grief, sharing funny stories that made Ethan laugh and adding Emma into the narrative like she belonged there. Around dinner time, Emma's pain flared again despite the medication. She tried to hide it, but Daniel noticed her wince when she shifted positions. Okay, that's it, he said gently. You're staying for dinner, and then you're going home to rest. And before you argue, I'm not taking no for an answer. I don't want to impose. You're not imposing. You're in pain, and you drove all the way here because you promised Ethan. The least I can do is feed you and make sure you get home safe. Can she stay over? Ethan asked hopefully. We have a guest room and everything. Ethan, what she's hurting, and it's raining and driving is probably hard when you're hurting. Daniel looked at Emma, leaving the choice to her. There's no pressure, but he's not wrong. You're welcome to stay if you want. Emma thought about driving home in pain through rain to an empty apartment. Then she thought about staying here in this warm house with these people who actually wanted her around. If you're sure I'm not in the way. You could never be in the way, Daniel said firmly. They ate simple pasta for dinner, Ethan insisting on sitting next to Emma, chattering about school and his friends, and how everyone wanted to sign his cast. After dinner, Daniel showed Emma to the guest room, apologizing for the clutter. Ethan uses it as a craft room sometimes. There might be glitter everywhere. I've given up trying to contain it. The room was small, but cozy, with a double bed and a window overlooking the backyard. Daniel helped her get settled, bringing extra pillows for her back, making sure she had water and pain medication within reach. Thank you, Emma said, for all of this. For letting me be part of your day, even though I'm a mess. You're not a mess. You're human. There's a difference. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed. Can I ask you something? Anything. The surgery. Are you doing it because you want to, or because you think you need to be different for people to accept you? The question cut straight to the bone. Emma stared at her hands, fighting tears. I don't know anymore. At first, it was because I couldn't accept this version of myself. I kept thinking if I could just fix my body, I could fix my life. But now, she looked at Daniel. Now I'm starting to think maybe I don't need to be fixed. Maybe I just need to accept where I am and build from here. I think you're perfect as you are. But if the surgery is something you want for yourself, not for anyone else, then I support it completely. Just promise me you're not doing it because you think I need you to be different. You really don't care about the wheelchair. Emma, I'm going to say this once and I need you to believe me. The wheelchair is just a chair. It's not you. You're the brilliant, funny, beautiful woman sitting in it. That's who I care about. That's who I'm falling for. Falling for. The words hung in the air between them, enormous and terrifying and wonderful. I'm falling for you too, Emma whispered, and it scares me to death. Good scared or bad scared? I'm still not sure. Daniel leaned over and kissed her forehead. Take your time figuring it out. I'm not going anywhere. After he left, Emma lay in the dark, listening to the house settle around her. She heard Daniel getting Ethan ready for bed, heard their nighttime routine of teeth brushing and story reading and I love yous. She heard Daniel walking past her door toward his own room, heard him pause outside like he was checking on her. This could be her life, this warmth, this family, this belonging, if she was brave enough to reach for it. Emma picked up her phone and called her surgeon's office, leaving a message confirming her surgery date. 6 weeks. 6 weeks until she'd know if things could get better or worse. 6 weeks to prepare to hope to let Daniel and Ethan become more than just a beautiful possibility. She texted Daniel, even though he was just down the hall. Thank you for today, for everything. For how I confirmed my surgery. January 15th, his response came quickly. I'll be there. Whatever you need. We both will. Emma fell asleep in a house that wasn't hers, surrounded by the sounds of a family that was starting to feel like home, more hopeful than she'd been in 850 days. The next morning, she woke to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Ethan's laughter. Daniel knocked softly before opening her door, carrying a breakfast tray. Room service, he announced with a smile. Ethan insisted, said you needed special treatment because you're hurting and you're special. He said that, his exact words, kids got good instincts. Emma sat up carefully, accepting the tray. Pancakes shaped like animals, fresh fruit orange juice, and a small vase with a single flower from Daniel's garden. This is too much. Nothing's too much, not for you. Ethan appeared in the doorway, still in his dinosaur pajamas. Do you like the pancakes I helped Dad make them? Well, I supervised. Because of my arm. They're perfect. You're both perfect. Does your back feel better? A little bit. Thank you for letting me stay. You can stay anytime. Right, Dad? Right. Anytime. After breakfast, Emma reluctantly prepared to leave. She had work calls scheduled, life responsibilities that couldn't be ignored. But leaving felt harder than it should have after just one night. Daniel walked her to her car, Ethan trailing behind with his cast held carefully. The rain had stopped, leaving everything washed clean and bright. 6 weeks, Daniel said quietly. Until your surgery. What do you need from me between now and then? Just this. You and Ethan. Normal days, helping me remember why I'm doing this. You've got it. We'll make the next 6 weeks so good you'll be excited to heal and have even more. Emma kissed him goodbye, soft and lingering, not caring that Ethan was making exaggerated gagging noises behind them. When she pulled away, Daniel was smiling. Drive safe. Text me when you're home. You're going to say that every time I leave, aren't you? Every single time. Get used to it. Emma drove home with music playing loud windows down, despite the cold feeling like she'd somehow stumbled into someone else's beautiful life, and they'd invited her to stay. 6 weeks until surgery. 6 weeks until everything could change. But for the first time in 850 days, Emma wasn't counting down to something terrible. She was counting down to possibility. The 6 weeks passed like water through fingers, simultaneously too fast and achingly slow. Emma found herself living in 2 timelines: the countdown to surgery that terrified her, and the moments with Daniel and Ethan that made her forget to be afraid. They fell into a rhythm without planning it. Wednesday dinners at Daniel's house became tradition. Saturday mornings at the park, watching Ethan's soccer games even after his cast came off. Sunday afternoons in Daniel's workshop, where Emma learned to sand wood while he built furniture, and they talked about everything and nothing. Ethan had stopped asking if Emma was coming over and started assuming she would be. He'd call her after school to tell her about his day, his voice excited and unfiltered. Daniel would steal the phone and talk to her for another hour, their conversations meandering through work frustrations and childhood memories and plans for the future they were tentatively building. Emma's team at work noticed the change. Her assistant commented that she seemed lighter, somehow, less brittle. Her CTO asked if she'd started meditating. Only Rebecca knew the truth, and she celebrated every update with the enthusiasm of someone watching her sister come back to life. "You're glowing," Rebecca said during one of their weekly coffee dates. "Literally glowing. I haven't seen you like this since before the accident." "I'm terrified," Emma admitted. "The surgery is in 2 weeks and I can't stop thinking about all the ways it could go wrong." "What does Daniel say?" "He says whatever happens, we'll handle it together. But what if I get worse? What if I become more of a burden? What if—" "Emma." Rebecca grabbed her hand. "Stop catastrophizing. You've been doing that for 2 years and look where it got you. Alone and miserable. Now you have people who love you and you're inventing reasons to push them away before they can leave." "I'm not—" Emma stopped. "Okay, maybe I am. Marcus leaving broke something in you. I get it. But Daniel isn't Marcus. He's seen you at your worst, and he's still here. He's not going anywhere." "How do you know?" "Because he looks at you the way Tom looks at me. Like you're the answer to a question he didn't know he was asking." 2 weeks before surgery, Daniel invited Emma to dinner with just him. No Ethan, who was having a sleepover at his friend Tyler's house. Just the 2 of them, and Emma's heart hammered with nerves and anticipation. She dressed carefully, choosing a deep green sweater that Daniel had once said brought out her eyes. She applied makeup with shaking hands, then wiped it off and started over. This felt significant somehow, like a threshold they were about to cross. Daniel had actually cooked, not just heated up pasta or ordered takeout. The table was set with candles and his grandmother's china that he admitted he'd never used before. He wore a button-down shirt instead of his usual flannel, his hair still damp from a shower. "You look beautiful," he said when she arrived, his voice rough with sincerity. "You clean up pretty well yourself." Sarah's grandmother's china seemed excessive, but Ethan said if I was going to ask you something important, I needed to go big or go home. So I went big. Emma's heart stopped. "Ask me something important." Daniel looked suddenly nervous, running a hand through his hair. "Let's eat first, before I lose my courage." Dinner was pot roast with vegetables, comfort food done perfectly. They talked about their week, about Ethan's upcoming school play, about the Victorian house Daniel was finishing. But underneath it all, Emma felt the weight of unspoken words, the question Daniel hadn't asked yet. After dinner, he took her hand and led her to the living room. They sat on the couch close, but not touching the space between them, crackling with tension. "I need to tell you something," Daniel said finally. "And I need you to let me finish before you respond, okay?" Emma nodded, her mouth too dry to speak. "I didn't think I'd ever feel this way again." After Sarah died, I was sure that was it for me. One great love in a lifetime. And I'd had mine. I'd raise Ethan alone, work exist, but never really live again. He took a shaky breath. And then, you showed up at that wedding looking lost and lonely, and so damn beautiful, it hurt to look at you. And Ethan, with his complete lack of filter, decided you were ours. Just like that. No hesitation. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she stayed silent, letting him talk. These past 6 weeks have been the best weeks I've had in 2 years. Coming home knowing you're going to call. Planning my weekend around seeing you. Watching Ethan light up every time you walk through the door. You've become part of our lives so seamlessly, it's like you were always supposed to be there. Daniel. I'm not done. He smiled nervously. Your surgery scares me. Not because of what it might mean for your mobility, but because I'm terrified something could go wrong. I'm terrified of losing you when I just found you. But I realized something. I'd rather have you in my life exactly as you are, wheelchair and chronic pain and all the complications, than have anyone else. Emma couldn't hold back anymore. I love you. The words escaped before she could stop them, raw and honest and terrifying. Daniel's eyes went wide. What? I love you. I didn't mean to. I tried not to. But somewhere between that first dance and Ethan's broken arm and falling asleep in your guest room, I fell completely in love with you. With both of you. Daniel cupped her face in his hands, his own eyes bright with unshed tears. I love you too. God. Emma, I love you so much it terrifies me. I was trying to build up to saying it, but you beat me to it. Was that your important question? Whether I loved you? Actually, no. Daniel pulled back slightly, suddenly serious. My important question is this. After your surgery, during recovery, will you let us take care of you? Will you move in here temporarily, so you're not alone in your apartment? Will you trust us enough to let us help? Emma's throat closed. The thought of being that vulnerable, that dependent, sent panic skittering through her chest. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. Emma, you've been handling everything alone for 2 years because you were too scared to need anyone. But needing people isn't weakness. It's being human. What if I'm difficult? What if recovery is harder than expected? What if? Then we'll figure it out. Together. That's what people who love each other do. Emma looked around this house that had become so familiar. The photos of Sarah on the mantel, the toys scattered across the floor, the smell of wood and cinnamon that meant home. She thought about her empty apartment with its sterile accessibility modifications and careful isolation. She thought about being alone versus being loved. Okay, she whispered. Yes, I'll stay here during recovery. Daniel kissed her, then deep and sure-tasting, like relief and joy and promise. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. I have one more question. Another one. This one's easier, I promise. He smiled. After you're healed, after you're back on your feet, whether that means walking or not, will you consider making this permanent? Moving in for real? Being part of this family officially? Emma's heart hammered so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. Daniel, that's not an easier question. That's enormous. I know, and I'm not asking for an answer now. I'm just asking you to think about it. Because I can see it, Emma. I can see you here. I can see Ethan calling you mom someday if you want that. I can see us building a life together, messy and complicated and beautiful. What if the surgery changes things? What if I'm different after? Then we'll love the different version of you. Emma, don't you get it yet? We're not here for the version of you that walks or doesn't hurt. We're here for you, all of you, whatever that looks like. Emma couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face, and let Daniel hold her while she cried out 2 years of loneliness and fear, and the overwhelming relief of finally being seen. The night before surgery, Emma couldn't sleep. She lay in her apartment surrounded by packed bags for her stay at Daniel's house, alternating between terror and a strange sort of calm. Her phone buzzed at 2 in the morning. Daniel. Can't sleep either. Want company? Emma. It's 2 a.m. Daniel. I'm aware. Ethan's at my brother's for the night. I can be there in 15 minutes. Emma. You don't have to do that. Daniel. I want to. Let me be there for you. 20 minutes later, Daniel appeared at her door in sweatpants and a hoodie carrying a thermos of hot chocolate and a bag of donuts. I come bearing comfort food and my complete inability to let you face this alone. Emma let him in, overwhelmed with gratitude for this man who showed up at 2 in the morning just to sit with her fear. They settled on her couch, Emma tucked against his side, his arm around her shoulders. Tell me what you're scared of, Daniel said quietly. Everything. The surgery going wrong. The pain getting worse instead of better. Waking up and realizing this was all too good to be true, and you've changed your mind. I'm not changing my mind. You say that now. But Daniel, what if recovery is ugly? What if I'm angry and difficult and not the person you think I am? Then I'll love the angry, difficult version too. Emma. I've seen you in pain. I've seen you vulnerable and scared. That didn't change how I feel. Nothing will. How can you be so sure? Daniel shifted to face her fully. Because when Sarah was dying, the last 6 months were hell. She was in constant pain, angry at the world, sometimes cruel because she hurt so much. And I loved her through all of it. Not despite it, but including it. That's what love means. It's not just the good days and pretty moments. It's showing up for the hard parts, too. I don't want to be your second Sarah. You're not. You could never be. You're Emma. Completely your own person. And I'm not trying to replace what I lost. I'm building something new with you. They talked until sunrise. Daniel holding her while she cycled through fear and hope and everything in between. When her alarm went off at 6, signaling it was time to get ready for the hospital, Daniel was still there. I'm not leaving your side, he said firmly. From now until you're healed. You're stuck with me. What about Ethan? My brother's keeping him until this afternoon. Then he'll visit you in the hospital. He made you a card. It has at least 47 stickers on it. Despite her terror, Emma smiled. 47. I counted. He was very thorough. The hospital prep was exactly as awful as Emma remembered from her first surgery. The needles, the forms, the surgeon explaining risks in clinical detail that made everything feel more real and more terrifying. Daniel held her hand through all of it, thumb rubbing circles on her palm, anchoring her when panic threatened to pull her under. I'm scared, Emma whispered, as they wheeled her toward the operating room. Daniel walked beside the gurney, still holding her hand. I know, but you're the bravest person I've ever met. You've survived worse than this. What if I don't wake up? You will. You're too stubborn not to. He leaned down and kissed her forehead. I love you. We'll be right here when you wake up. Promise. Promise. The anesthesia pulled her under before she could respond, Daniel's face the last thing she saw. Emma woke to beeping machines and the familiar antiseptic smell of hospitals. Her body felt distant, disconnected, floating on a sea of pain medication. She tried to move, and pain lanced through her spine, sharp and immediate. Easy. Daniel's voice cut through the fog. His hand found hers, warm and real. Don't try to move yet. The surgery just finished an hour ago. Did it work? Emma's voice came out as a croak. The surgeon said it went well. Better than expected. But we won't know the full results until the swelling goes down and you start physical therapy. Emma tried to process this through the medication haze. Better than expected. That was good, right? That meant hope. Ethan. Waiting outside with my brother, hospital policy only one visitor in recovery. But he's been asking about you non-stop. Daniel squeezed her hand. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck, but also, I don't know, different somehow. Different good or different bad? Too soon to tell. Emma drifted in and out of consciousness for the next few hours. Every time she surfaced, Daniel was there, reading a book, scrolling on his phone, watching her with worried eyes. Just there, solid and present, exactly as he'd promised. When they finally moved her to a regular room, the nurses let Ethan visit. He burst through the door with barely contained energy, clutching a card covered in stickers and his careful 7-year-old handwriting. "Emma, you're alive?" "Dad said you would be, but I was still worried." He stopped beside her bed, suddenly uncertain. "Does it hurt?" "Yeah, buddy. It hurts pretty bad." "That sucks. I brought you a card, and Dad said I could give you this." He produced a small stuffed dinosaur, well-loved and slightly worn. "This is Rex. He's my favorite. He helped me feel better when I broke my arm, so I thought he could help you too." Emma's eyes filled with tears. This child, this beautiful, unexpected child, was lending her his most precious possession. "Thank you, Ethan. I'll take good care of Rex." "You better. He's very important." Ethan climbed carefully into the chair beside her bed. "Dad said you're coming to stay at our house when you get out. Is that true?" "If you're okay with it." "Okay with it, Emma. It's going to be awesome. We can watch movies and I can help take care of you like you helped take care of me. And Dad makes really good soup when people are sick. And you'll be there every day, not just sometimes." His enthusiasm was infectious. Emma found herself smiling despite the pain, despite the uncertainty, despite everything. Sounds pretty perfect to me. Recovery was harder than Emma expected. The first 3 days in the hospital were a blur of pain medication and physical therapy assessments, and doctors poking at her incision site. Daniel stayed every night sleeping in an uncomfortable chair, refusing to leave even when Emma insisted he should go home and rest. "I'm exactly where I need to be," he said every time she brought it up. On day 4, they released her to go home. Not to her apartment, but to Daniel's house, where he'd already set up a temporary bedroom on the first floor. No stairs to navigate everything within reach, a physical therapist scheduled to come 3 times a week. Ethan had made a banner that said, "Welcome home, Emma," with at least 100 more stickers. He'd cleaned his room without being asked and informed Emma very seriously that he would be the best helper ever you'll see. The first week was brutal. Emma's pain levels fluctuated wildly, good hours followed by bad ones that left her crying and frustrated. She couldn't do simple things for herself, couldn't transfer from wheelchair to bed without help, couldn't shower alone. Every bit of independence she'd fought so hard to maintain was stripped away, leaving her vulnerable and dependent in ways that made her want to scream. Daniel took it all in stride. He helped her with everything, patient and calm, even when she snapped at him. When she cried from frustration, he held her. When she pushed him away, he gave her space, but stayed close enough to return when she needed him. "I hate this," Emma sobbed one particularly bad afternoon. "I hate being helpless. I hate needing you for everything. I know," Daniel said quietly, rubbing her back in slow circles. "I know you hate it. But Emma, you're not helpless. You're healing. There's a difference." "It doesn't feel different." "It will. Give it time." Ethan was surprisingly helpful, bringing Emma water without being asked, sitting quietly beside her when she hurt too much to talk, narrating his day to distract her from the pain. He'd crawl into bed beside her carefully, Rex the dinosaur tucked between them, and tell her stories about school and his friends and the treehouse his dad was building. "When you're all better, you can help us paint it," Ethan said one evening. "I want it to be blue like your favorite color, like the ocean." "That sounds perfect, buddy. And when the treehouse is done, you'll be all better and we can have a party up there. Just you and me and Dad. Our family." Emma's breath caught. Our family. He'd said it so naturally, like it was already decided. Daniel appeared in the doorway carrying dinner trays. "Ethan, give Emma some space. She needs to eat." I'm helping. I'm being quiet company." "You're doing great," Emma assured him. "The best helper, just like you said." Ethan beamed, pride written all over his face. 2 weeks into recovery, Emma's physical therapist had her try standing with assistance. The terror was immediate and overwhelming, her legs shaking, her spine screaming in protest. Daniel stood in front of her, hands ready to catch her, while the therapist supported her from behind. I can't do this." "You can," Daniel said firmly. "Just 10 seconds, Emma. That's all. 10 seconds, and then you can sit down." 10 seconds, Emma repeated like a mantra. She pushed up with everything she had, her legs taking weight for the first time in 2 years. The pain was excruciating, tears streaming down her face, but she was standing. Actually standing. Daniel counted down. 10, 9, 8. Emma's legs trembled violently, threatening to give out. 7, 6, 5. She couldn't hold it. Couldn't do this. Her vision blurred. 4, 3, 2, 1. Emma gasped, collapsing back into her wheelchair. "Oh my God. I stood. I actually stood." Daniel dropped to his knees in front of her, kissing her hands, her face, tears running down his cheeks. "You did it. Emma, you did it." The physical therapist was smiling. "That was excellent progress. We'll work up to longer periods, but this is a great start." After she left, Emma sat in stunned silence, staring at her legs like they belonged to someone else. 10 seconds. Not much. Not enough to change her life, but enough to give her hope. "We need to call Rebecca," Emma said suddenly. "And Ethan. I need to tell them." Daniel handed her his phone, still grinning like she'd won an Olympic medal. Rebecca screamed so loud, Emma had to pull the phone away from her ear. Ethan, when they called him at his friend's house, asked if this meant Emma could play soccer with him now. "Not yet, buddy, but maybe someday." "Cool. I'll wait." That night, lying in the temporary bedroom with Daniel in the chair beside her, Emma felt something shift inside her chest. Not the sharp crack of breaking, but the slow unfurling of something that had been closed too long. "I've been thinking about your question," she said into the darkness. Daniel sat up, instantly alert. "Which question?" "About moving in permanently, after I'm healed." "Emma, you don't have to decide now. You're still recovering. There's no pressure." "I want to," Emma interrupted. "I want to stay here, with you and Ethan. I want to build this family we keep talking about. I want to paint the treehouse blue and watch bad dinosaur movies and eat your cinnamon rolls every Saturday morning. I want all of it." Daniel was beside her in an instant, careful not to jostle her spine, holding her face in his hands. "Are you sure? Really sure?" "I'm terrified, but I'm sure." He kissed her, then soft and reverent, tasting like joy and promise and home. "I love you," Daniel whispered against her lips. "I love you too. Both of you." 3 months after surgery, Emma stood at Daniel's workshop door without her wheelchair. She'd walked from the car using a cane, but walking, her legs shaky, but holding her weight. Daniel looked up from the table he was sanding, and his expression went slack with shock. "Emma, you're walking, kind of, with help, but walking." She grinned through happy tears. "The physical therapist cleared me today for short distances. I wanted you to be the first to see." Daniel crossed the workshop in 3 strides, pulling her into his arms, careful but firm. "I'm so proud of you. God, Emma, I'm so damn proud." They stood there holding each other, surrounded by sawdust and sunshine, and Emma felt more whole than she had in years. Not because she could walk again, though, that was wonderful, but because she'd found people who loved her either way, who'd seen her at her absolute worst and stayed anyway. That weekend, Daniel's brother Mike was getting married, and Emma had been invited. The wedding was smaller than Rebecca's, had been more intimate, but just as beautiful. Emma wore a blue dress that matched Ethan's tie, walked into the venue, using her cane instead of her wheelchair. Daniel's hand steady on her arm. When the dancing started, Emma's heart clenched with familiar fear. But then Daniel appeared in front of her hand, extended, smiling that smile that had undone her at her sister's wedding months ago. "May I have this dance?" Emma took his hand, letting him pull her to her feet. They moved onto the dance floor together, and this time Emma could stand, could shift her weight, could move with him instead of being moved. It wasn't perfect, she still needed to lean on him, still couldn't do complicated steps. But she was dancing. Actually dancing. Ethan appeared beside them, bouncing with excitement. "Look at Emma. She's dancing, Dad. She's really dancing." "I see, Buddy. She's the best dancer here." "That's what I said. Remember? At that first wedding, I said Emma was the best, and I was right." People gathered to watch, but Emma didn't care. She wasn't the tragedy anymore, wasn't the inspiration story, or the brave CEO. She was just Emma dancing with the man she loved, and the child who'd decided she was worth knowing before anyone else had. When the song ended, there was applause, but Emma barely heard it. She was looking at Daniel, at Ethan, at these two people who'd saved her without ever making her feel like she needed saving. "Thank you," she whispered to Daniel. "For what?" "For seeing me. Really seeing me. For not letting me hide." Daniel pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Thank you for letting us love you." Later, as they drove home with Ethan asleep in the back seat, Emma's cane propped beside her, Daniel's hand in hers. Emma thought about dancing. Real dancing. Not the magazine cover kind or the inspiration story kind. Just moving with someone who saw all of you and chose to stay anyway. That's what dancing really meant. Not standing, not perfection. Just choosing to move forward with someone who made the stumbling worthwhile. And Emma Collins, CEO and survivor and woman who'd forgotten how to hope, was finally ready to dance.